nothing but Hondas. But I got a special treat for you guys today. This is a BMW S2002, part of a Honda. Welcome to VTEC Academy. You're about to get schooled. Got a special treat for you guys today. This is an S2000 powered BMW 2002. I know that's a lot of twos and zeros. It also makes about 200 horsepower, but this car has some unbelievable fabrication. This belongs to Dan Lynch, and he did this kind of as an exercise to learn how to fabricate. So let's check this thing out and see what he's done to this thing. It's pretty amazing. Obviously, you mounted an S2000 in here. Looks like you have the S2000 transmission as well.
Yes. There's one company that makes a mount kit for it. The mount kit still requires quite a bit of fabrication because it doesn't actually bolt to the subframe. You have to make little plates. You gotta hog out the whole trans tunnel, cut out the center section to fit the giant S2000 transmission.
Right.
Tall, not giant. So there's just quite a bit of fabrication there. I happen to put a pedal kit in there, and in order to get that mounted, I had to modify the frame rail and move a doghouse into the engine bay to fit it. So mine was a little more complicated there. I also chose to cut the front end of the car off and tube frame it to allow for more room for a radiator setup, because this stock body sits extremely tight in there.
Got it.
So I wanted a traditional radiator shroud, not just a fan zip tied to the radiator.
Right.
So,
well, it has a much more complete look to it when it's like this, as opposed to, like you said, the little things that stick through your radiator and mess it up. The fin.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the way it came out, because I mean, it's obviously tubed, but it doesn't look race car-ish per se. It still has kind of fits the car all right.
Right.
For some reason, this is like my proudest achievement. I used Joe's Fender, his big finger brake to make like
those are pretty
nice
well radius
stuff.
Those are nicely radius for a
it's
finger
one,
brake.
and like the top mount of it, there was something about it when I got done building it. I was just like, that was the best feeling ever. Yeah, I was like, okay, I maybe know how to do this now, you know?
I like the shape of the radiator too, because it's got like the triangular sides.
It's a JEG special V8 radiator that I've chopped up and remade. Header's brand new. It's kind of a version 2. We used to have a high-rise, like old school style header that, you know, came almost as tall as the engine and then flipped back down. But these motors tend to be pretty noisy if they're not at full song. You know, they shake a lot, and I was just having a lot of trouble with it, and we kind of designed the original header as one piece. This one is a little smaller, tighter, and it has a bunch of slip fits in it to allow for movement, expansion. I'm hoping it'll survive longer.
Oh, the other one's cracking.
Yeah, I've just, not any issues with the welds or anything. It's just probably the overall design on my part was bad. This one's brand new. It's actually just been on there for a couple days. It's just starting to turn gold. Fits real nice. Future Fab did a great job. I'm excited to actually drive the car again. I forgot how peppy it was.
I would imagine the 200 horsepower in a 2,000 pound car?
It's about 2,300.
2,300?
Probably with me in it.
Okay. So I'm sure it's just super peppy. I mean, because these motors in the S2000 feel pretty good, and that's quite a bit heavier.
Yeah, you know, compared to turbo cars and a lot of what my friends drive, it's not fast, but it's a blast to drive. It's just the most fun.
Lightweight, tossable, all that good stuff.
Yep, I took it on track at Wild Horse Pass, and I'm actually extremely surprised with how well it handles. You just point and shoot.
Nice. Any other particular problems you have with getting this in here? I mean, obviously, building a new tunnel is a huge undertaking.
The steering rack it's a steering box setup. So that's the crossover arm. You have to modify the bottom of the trans. There's cooling fins on it, and you have to carve them out in order for it to fit. That's kind of a, you know, take the engine in and out 50 times to get it done. Other than that, I mean, it's you know, a small engine bay. It's not too bad. The original pedal box for this has a scaffolding system that sits in the engine bay that has all the brake parts on it. Right. And it comes very close to contacting the intake manifold. Plenty of people have done this swap and left that in there. I did not like it. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like how close it was. That's what made me go with the pedal box. I always had wanted to try to put one in a car, and that was my reason. I figure if you ever put a K in this, and you had issues with height, you just would use like the magnesium skunk 2 valve cover, or there's a couple of companies that make shorter valve covers.
Right.
I think there's plenty of space overall.
I noticed you got radium fuel rail, so I'm assuming you have more radium parts for your fuel system. Can we take a look at that?
Yeah.
I've never actually looked in the trunk of an S2002, actually of a 2002. Interesting setup with the fuel tank. I noticed this big heavy bar too, probably for rear end collision, I assume.
Yeah, that's a stock, that's all stock. The fuel tank is a stock fuel tank, slightly modified for the AN line. I didn't want to change too much there, so I have basically a small lift pump from a Volkswagen. It's like a 2 PSI lift pump feeding the swirl pot, and then out of the swirl pot I've got the Bosch fuel pump going through the radium fuel filter.
Chiller?
Yeah, I mean, it's
chiller filter,
air
whatever.
cooler,
Air
cooled.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works, but it's cool looking.
They make nice stuff.
Yeah, and so then it just goes over here to the left side of the car, where that was the easiest place I could run the fuel lines from the back of the car to the front of the car. I wanted a swirl pot. I like the idea of not ever having fuel starvation, and it gives me a almost 2 liters of extra fuel that I don't know about. In order to run true coilovers, I had to reinforce the strut towers, so that's what the bar work is back there.
So what's this normal? Is it normal? Normally the spring's not included with the coilover, or is that
it's a divorce setup.
A divorce setup,
Yeah.
okay.
The car was completely rewired. There's not 1 inch of BMW wiring on the car. That's new body harness, new engine harness, everything. I just looked at the BMW wiring that was in it, and it was a running car, and I was like, I want nothing to do with it. It was just another learning thing. It's solid. It's you can work on it. You know, it's serviceable, so I'm happy.
That's all you need.
The column switch panel is on the left is the turn signals with the turn signal lights, and the switch to the right is my starter.
And the steering wheel, that's kind of an interesting design.
There's a local guy who makes carbon fiber steering wheels, Fiber Spoke, and he made me that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's custom made. It's hard to see, but at the top in cursive at the very top of the wheel is like the Haymaker, which is like just the thing I use. If I had a company, it would be called Haymaker.
Nice. So we can see the fabrication of your tunnel there.
Basically, just cut the tunnel out, keep cutting until the engine fit, and then build
fix
a
the
tunnel
hull
over it. Yeah, I made the center console from scratch that has the radio in it. It's using a fiberglass dash that a BMW company makes. And my dash was completely trashed when I got the car, so this was the cheapest option. I kind of it looks like a 70s spacecraft to me, which is kind of cool. I dig it.
So it basically comes with a blank face, and you can put whatever dials and switches you want in there, and stuff like that. Nice.
Yeah, I flocked the top of it because originally it was painted. When I originally put it in the car, it just really bad glare issues.
So bright.
Yeah, so flocked it, took care of that.
Who did the door panels?
Local upholsterer, Hatefully Seats. She does mostly motorcycle seats.
Oh, okay.
Like for chopper, like old school choppers.
Okay.
And I found her, and just she was willing to do the car, and she did a great job. I had a friend who's an artist, and she actually did color theories for the car. Found all the different plaids and gave me a bunch of choices to pick through, which is good because I get really mired down in that. I just can't.
Well, you want it to be perfect.
Well, I had seen this plaid and I had completely ignored it. I was like, that's purple. There's purple in that. I can't use that. And then she had set it back, and with the way that she paired it with the car and like the package she sent me, it just was like the obvious choice at that point, which was really neat because it was something that I couldn't fathom at first, and it turned out to be perfect for the car.
It just has a nice, complete, come together, really beautiful look to it. The paint on the dash, the rear panels on it, and stuff like that. Who did the paint?
11's Paint Fiber?
11's, yeah. They do a lot of the nice cars around here. Now these fender flares look BMW specific, is that correct?
These are Zender flares.
Oh, Zender. Wow.
Zender, yeah, it was an old tuning company. These have been modified heavily by 11s. They're not, the backs are pretty stockish, just the bottoms have been modified, but the fronts of the front fenders are completely new. He cut them off, and they actually like mold into the front of the car. This was a John Owens idea.
Oh, nice.
I was originally just going to make a panel with all of the stuff bolted to it, and he was like, somebody's going to steal it. I hand made the hinges, everything. There's not like a piece of this that is like stock.
Right.
If I take that little piece out,
Uh-huh.
I can flip it all flat so that I can work on the back of it.
Nice. That's exactly what I'm thinking would be good. Perfect.
For the floor there, since I had the pedal box in there, I kind of wanted a heel plate and I wanted a footrest too, so that seemed to be the best way to do it. I have like little shelves welded into the sides of the car that bolts directly to. It comes out in about 5 minutes. My brake switch is mounted underneath there, so that protects that as well.
I noticed a pattern that's on the floor right there. Is that just like a sticker, or is that
That's a
painted on?
skateboard grip tape. Yeah, if you look at the pedals, I got a green grip tape on the gas pedal, red grip tape on the brake pedal, and then the patterned grip tape on the clutch. I've been making skateboard wheel shift knobs for all my cars, so it kind of is a necessary thing. I'm a skateboarder. That's what I've did my whole life, and my knees don't work anymore, so cars kind of replace that. Yeah, Dylan at 11's like taped that off and did that checker design. It came just dry carbon. It's a beautiful dry carbon piece. Just taped it with glue and then cut little squares out, hundreds and hundreds of little squares out, and painted it. Control arms are stock basically. Where they mount to the chassis, it was a single shear system from BMW, which is silly in my opinion. So if you look at the back of the shear point, I've welded on secondary shear points on both sides.
Right.
That I put in there to make it a little stronger. They didn't have rubber like they do nowadays, so I was kind of nervous about putting extremely grippy tires on the car and then
having
that force going into that.
Yeah, because that would just be all bolt, basically. Or is there like a rod there that was sliding?
It's a bolt.
That's not good enough.
The sway bar is made by a company called Ireland Engineering. It's built for a specific swap, like a BMW swap, like, I don't know, different engine. It sits kind of low in my opinion, but I haven't had really much trouble with it, so it's kind of stayed.
Yeah. So those are the fins that you had to trim basically in order to make the clearance for that?
Yep. Wasn't too worried about it. It's part of the bell housing.
Yeah. Shouldn't be a strength issue there. I like your oval exhaust. Obviously maximizing your ground clearance.
I have a weird thing for oval exhausts. Everything I do has to have an oval exhaust for some reason. I like it for ground clearance.
Yeah.
Devin at GSK made the exhaust. I know this looks a little odd, but that was originally how the exhaust was mounted, and it was a little too rigid. And since we just did the header, I just chopped it out of there for for testing. The exhaust has 2 resonators in it and is still loud. We got custom brake lines that I made for it. This is a custom rear subframe. From what I understand, BMW people are probably screaming about this, but there's a small, medium, and large case for the differentials.
Okay.
This is a medium case out of, I think, an E36. I know the rear cover is, and it's got a factory limited slip differential in it. There's a 2002 guy who just makes these subframes. They're basically a mix of an E30 subframe and a 2002 subframe. The front is mounted to the subframe, which is mounted to polyurethane bushings. The back of it is mounted to the back frame, the unibody of the car.
Got it.
And that's a BMW thing. Like that's how it. Like this is a beefed up style. Normally there's only 1 ear. This is a special 2 ear. Deal.
So that's basically where the flex is. The flex is at the subframe.
Yeah. I was really worried about the fuel lines when they go over the half shafts.
Yeah.
So I made a little shield there for them. It's got rear rotors instead of drums. It's a drive shaft shop, and it's they knew it was an S2000 engine, so they said, oh, it'll spin up to, I can't remember what.
They actually have high-speed balancing, which a lot of companies don't have high-speed balancing.
Yeah, so it's been fine, no issues driveline-wise.
Yeah.
I use A86 coilovers in the rear.
Okay.
They're made by Annex Suspension, which they really nice pieces.
Those axles look pretty beefy.
Axles are out of, I guess it's a 5 Series / 2002, like inners and outers.
thanks to Dan Lynch for showing us his super cool S2002 BMW. To see more cars like this, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notifications when we have cool new videos up. Thanks for joining us. By the way, you want to come say hi? If you're in Southern California, I'm going to be there August 17th at Honda, Cars, Bikes, and Coffee. So come on by and say hi. We'll see you then.